So hi, it's really nice to be here. We're at the Elliott's Hotel. I'm very excited because we are with Elena and Cristina. I'm honored really that we're here with them because they are two Spanish academics who live in Spain, different places. Elena lives in Galicia and Cristina lives in Mallorca. And they're both super interested in Gibraltar and the way we speak.
Yo voy a los dos sitios. Yo voy a Mallorca para comerme la sobrasada de allí y voy a ir a Galicia para hartarme de mejillones. I mean, because that's all I care about, food.
Yes, food, okay.
De verdad.
Fish and seafood,
Todo.
yes.
Eso
Very
no,
important.
You're very welcome.
es lo único que me interesa, de
You're
verdad.
very welcome.
The
So
rest.
I just find it fascinating that somebody would be so interested in us and in our dialects and in the way we speak and in our mix of Spanglish, which is really Llanito, which is what we call Llanito. The other thing is I went to a talk last night, so I'm going to read this out.
Spanglish came later. Spanglish es lo que se dice en España y lo que se usa, porque ahora se usa mucho en España los temas que si el weekend y el meeting y si hay feeling entre nosotros y todas esas cosas. So, pero Llanito has been around for
Much longer.
eons.
Ever.
So,
At least una vez, porque tuvimos un podcast con el Llanito Society,
Yeah.
and it
So
hasn't
that
been
one.
forever. It started as from cuando ya tuvo la buena mezcla y de todos los genoveses, estaban los judíos, los
Different
árabes.
cultures.
Just from different
Different
nationalities
languages,
and all that,
different
but I
cultures,
think
yeah.
mainly it must have been as well cuando ya se quedaron más españoles aquí. I think.
puede ser.
Y ya, basically, muchas de las cosas que decimos literalmente es de que una persona de habla castellano no podía decirlo bien en inglés, como cake. Cakey.
Keki.
Entonces son cosas así. Mi
¿Había
madre.
escuchado esa palabra, Keki?
Yeah, from Llanito.
Ahí está.
Yeah, just from Llanito.
Por eso literally es porque a lo mejor tú decías yo quiero un cake y tu abuela que era de eso te decía niño comete el cake y ya está.
Yes.
I think, Porque
Well,
como ahora lo llama Manuel.
maybe we can ask.
Manuel,
Maybe
not on fire,
we can
please.
ask. We were with Manuel last night, actually, chatting. So Elena and Cristina gave a talk yesterday, which was so interesting about our language and all the things about it. They have been studying English since 2015, and they're compiling the Gibraltar components of the international corpus of English. Now, I saw that. I don't quite know what it means. What is the corpus of English?
Okay, shall I?
Oh, yes, of course. The International Corpus of English is a major project which is based now at the University of Zurich, and it comprises the compilation of information from many different varieties of English around the world. It's not only British English, the canonical, the typical varieties of English like British English, American English, Canadian English, but also all the Englishes that exist all around the world. It's like India, Jamaica, Kenya, Tanzania, and there are how many teams now? Like 26?
26, yes. There are more varieties.
And we started to study like varieties of English in Asia, and then we decided, okay, Gibraltar English is closer to us than India and all those countries, which are really, really nice. So what are we waiting for? And that's why we decided is to start
come
come here and learn a bit about Gibraltar English, and just decided to compile your variety of English, which has not been compiled in this project or any other project.
So I wanted to know why such an interest in our language, in our code switching, because it is code switching.
Well, when we arrived here, we were interested in the variety of English only because we work at departments of English. But then we got here and we started to hear people speaking, and we realized that they did not speak Spanish; they spoke Llanito. And we realized that it was a fascinating variety in the sense that, or fascinating language, because it's unique. It's not Spanglish. It's so much more than Spanglish. What it combines is not just regular Spanish, regular English. No. It combines what we call Llanito Spanish, which is very different from our Spanish, for example, or the Spanish spoken in Peru, and Gibraltar English, what we call Gibraltar English, with particular accent and grammar and so on. So the combination of both is amazing, and it has not been studied in a not only its words and lexicon, which is the first thing that comes to your mind, like, oh, what does that mean? I don't understand that word. That is, funny to talk about around a table. but systematically study how is the code switching done, because it's not random. It is subject to rules, and those rules have not been studied. So there's no grammar about it, but it can be done.
I have a cousin que el pobre intenta, but every so often, no, así no es.
Claro.
And I can't say why. Eso es lo que pasa. That's what I find interesting about this whole study.
Exactly.
I cannot tell you why.
Exactly.
But it's not right.
But remember that yesterday, Michelle, that we showed some examples of Spanglish, and I said, okay, is this Llanito or not? They were all examples from Miami and Puerto Rico and so on.
And did you get unanimous answers?
Yes. For two of them, you were like...
One or two of us, it's like they were somehow
there are some things
hesitating.
that we don't say.
Yeah.
Pero seguro que todo el mundo no.
Many for sure, they say no. But the last one, like they were,
The one of putting pero
Sí, pero like es una cosa muy dominicana, muy México,
American,
Puerto Rico.
Estábamos hablando de... Estábamos hablando de Bad Bunny anoche. Entonces ellas vieron el ejemplo de Bad Bunny que ha salido en The Time Magazine.
Sí.
Por la primera vez hablando en Spanish, en English and Spanish.
Yeah.
Sí.
Y entonces ellas estaban diciendo que he's very popular and he's putting that code switching, that language mix as a mainstream now. So a lot of
Pero
people...
eso empezó antes.
Sí,
pero
ahora
he's putting it up, porque antes
Time Magazine,
si
que
tú
siempre
ibas-
Because being Latino and all that is very much in fashion.
Yeah.
It is.
It's massive ahora
Pero-
mismo.
And also, if I'm not wrong, I think that because he was in Coachella, this famous concert in the States, and I think that it was the first concert that was only in Spanish, not using Spanish and English, but only in Spanish. If I read
in an English-speaking country.
Exactly, by Bad Bunny.
Pero
yeah.
sí,
I'm sorry to say, pero qué pena que he is the one to do it. Porque...
I know.
Well, I think that there are.
She didn't sing it. She sang yesterday in the book.
No, yo te lo puedo
Baby, yo llamé. I had the lyrics there, otherwise it was not possible just to sing
Pero
that
qué
song. but,
pena que eso no been done by somebody more reputable, por
my
favor.
point was that, for example, if you go to Eurovision or somewhere else, usually, even if you come from Croatia or Azerbaijan, or the songs are sometimes in English because they think
Sí.
that singing in English is going to be
Pero
you're going
en
win.
Eurovision se ha hecho ya antes una canción that has both Spanish and English.
Seguro.
Yeah.
Se ha hecho
Seguro,
antes.
pero ahora más Rosalía está cantando también
Rosalía,
igual,
yes.
en mitad y
Well,
mitad.
many.
Eso lleva
When there's
una pila de
many,
tiempo. Acuérdate
singers now.
que se lo lleva haciendo años en...
Madonna, La Isla Bonita.
La Isla
It will come
Bonita.
back to me, pero este tío lo lleva haciendo años. Lo que pasa es que for some reason ahora...
Y Julio Iglesias también.
Julio.
También.
Julio también.
Do you like
Julio, I didn't
Iglesias?
realize you liked
No.
Julio.
It's just hilarious. Es hilarious.
Why?
Porque Julio ha hecho lo que le ha dado la gana.
Always.
Y Papuchi también.
También.
Everybody.
Not anymore.
Que eso es otra cosa que tenemos también, que we know about the UK culture, we know about the American, we know about the Spanish, con que estamos en todo.
Bueno, y ahora, no lo dije anoche, pero lo iba a decir, hay un local, según mis hijos, un local DJ que se llama El Lago, porque se llama Lago
Sí,
Massino,
El Lago.
que ha cantado una
That's
canción,
right.
pero have you heard the song?
Yes.
It's bloody good.
Yes.
Is it?
Increíble. Se ha ido a
¿No
Inglaterra,
ves?
he's recorded it in England, y está en mitad,
Ajá.
pero
Qué
tú lo
bien.
escuchas y suena como si fuera puertorriqueño, algo así.
To highlights lo que estábamos hablando ahora, antes de que estamos todos connected, y yo te puedo decir, sí, hombre, ese es el que el Lago es el primo de mi sobrino.
Pues ya está. Pues el
Small
lago,
world,
me ha gustado el lago, los niños cantando esta canción en el coche, y digo, ¿esto qué?
If I'm not mistaken, he went to UK to try out for X Factor or something.
I think he's recorded this song.
He's got more,
I can't
yeah.
remember what it's called.
He's got more, yeah.
I've got to look him up. But anyway, if you're interested, he's called El Lago.
Okay.
El Lago.
So yeah, a
Look
bit
it up.
more. But one thing I did want to speak to you about was what you talked about last night, which I found fascinating, because we probably don't even realize it, ¿vale? This linguistic prejudice that exists,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
So Maybe you can explain it.
Yeah, the thing is that, well, the feeling that I have or that we have, and it's emerged last night or last evening in the talk, that for some people, some local people, it's like speaking Llanito is like they are reluctant basically because it is like a gibberish language, a language that is somehow it's like like as if the combination, since I cannot speak well the two languages, this is the result. And what we wanted to emphasize, or that was somehow the aim, is like, okay, in order to code switch, in order to speak Llanito, you have to be highly proficient in at least two languages and actively use them.
But so why do you get that impression?
Because for some people, I mean, they don't want to speak Llanito to their children, and the problem is that if parents...
it's not because of that reason.
It was what I heard. I mean, the feeling that I had yesterday, but probably I just misunderstood.
That's not the reason.
What do you think it is?
Okay.
The reason why they don't speak Llanito, which they do, what they don't speak is Spanish. Because since the introduction of satellite TV y tanto canal americano, se está perdiendo el castellano. That is the problem. And the problem is de que esas abuelas españolas que tuvimos y esas madres españolas, that is fading out. Y entonces, because school is in English and TV is in English and movies and music and everything, that is why. No, we love speaking Llanito. Everybody wants to speak Llanito. Lo que no hablan es en español.
No, that emerged as well. The thing that now most of the input is in English. Before,
right.
You used to have like the GBC 2 hours and primera y segunda.
And
now it's that emerged as well.
Después cogimos Antena 3, Canal Sur, Antena 3, Telecinco, and then we got 300 channels.
But then an issue of prestige emerged as well, or some of the people commented on
No, the
on
prestige
that.
has always been de que you speak English.
Exactly.
¿Vale? Y entonces yo creo que el desprecio para mí personalmente es más al castellano que al Llanito.
But this which definitely affects Llanito as well, because if they do not belong...
Of course, but forget about how it affects Llanito. It's the fact, I've spoken about this before, it's the fact de que después nosotros vamos across the border y algunos no se pueden comunicar de manera correcta, y a mí, por ejemplo, me da vergüenza porque una cosa es que tú quieras hablar Llanito. No pasa nada, no significa que no eres Llanito y todo rollo, pero te tendrá que comunicar correctamente con la persona, porque al final después lo que pasa es que parecemos baturros. Y todo es, this all goes back a la política.
Claro, claro.
No, yo hablo Llanito porque yo no soy español, no tiene nada que ver. Puedo hablar los tres.
Claro.
The more the merrier.
Yo no tengo problema ninguno, porque mi madre es española. So, a mí me da exactamente igual, y a mí sí, no se me olvida todo lo que le ha pasado y la historia y todo el rollo, pero también soy una persona que pienso que mira, hay que avanzar y hay que dejar tema atrás. Pero yo en mi casa yo hablo los tres, pero porque a mí me da la gana, porque es muy importante, aparte de que quiero que mis hijos se puedan comunicar con mi madre, ¿vale? Porque mi madre lleva aquí. Mi madre tiene 80, vino con 18, mi madre lleva 62 years y mi madre no habla en inglés, ¿vale?
No me digas.
Ahora te van a tomar por saco en inglés la madre bien, ¿vale?
Bueno, eso también lo hablamos anoche.
Hablando
de when you swear, when you get excited,
Emotions,
what language do you speak in? Porque
espérate,
I swear
para insultar a alguien es verdad en español.
En español, seguro.
The language of the brain and the language of the heart.
The language of the heart, aquí. Tú tienes que decir,
There was somebody at the talk saying that she scolds her children in English.
Because she speaks to her children in English.
Maybe.
But remember this teacher that said that now for the first time she's hearing the students swear in English?
Yes.
Which means that the language of emotion is becoming English now. Which was not the case in the past.
It's not necessarily that it's the language of emotion, it's that it's the language that they're exposed to.
Exactly, the language they know, they're familiar with it.
Entonces there's no choice.
Exactly. But the question of prestige, believe me, it's there in the sense that English has a lot of prestige.
Sí.
And it's been written, I mean, we gave documentation, letters written to the Gibraltar Chronicle saying a lot of people are rubbish in Llanito, they say that it's gibberish, they say that it's not a language, and that is being said.
Pero that is not our
It's people from Gibraltar, but no, I'm not saying everyone, of course not. But the reason why we talked about language discrimination is because if those letters appear in the Gibraltar Chronicle, it's because some people say
Sí,
that.
pero if you look at the percentage in regards to the population, es una minoría.
I hope so, but I don't
Claro
know.
que sí. Son los scholars, son la
Claro.
gente, porque para empezar, los que escriben en la crónica son los mismos.
Yeah, but they are in favor of. I mean, they're
Sí.
not against Janito. They are defending
No, they're
Janito.
defending it.
Pero they're also saying, there are also people who reinforce the facts de que English is the prestigious one. ¿Por qué? Porque también viene la mentalidad de toda la vida de que el inglés es el que sabe. Acuérdate que nosotros éramos un colony y nosotros éramos los natives and British is best, ¿vale?
Yeah.
Y esos son ejemplos, por ejemplo, de... Yo me acuerdo, esto le pasó, esto lo he contado yo antes, alguien que yo conozco que is an engineer and they were doing some sort of project y vino el inglés. Y el inglés dijo, hay que poner esto y esto y esto. And it didn't apply to Gibraltar. Pero el inglés era British Standard. Y entonces le dice, I've got 40 years experience, rah, 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 la misma de siempre. Y el de aquí le dijo, and how many of those are in Gibraltar?
Yeah. Good point. Yes, sir.
So a lot of it as well is the fact de que
Yes.
the British, toda la vida, pasó en India, ha pasado en muchos sitios. Nosotros
Yeah, I
somos los que
know.
mandamos y
I
ustedes
know.
seis menos y bla, 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 bla. Y entonces eso es una cosa que tenemos también. Mi padre le gustaba mucho. Oh,
¿Tu padre que le hablaba en español a tu madre?
Pues claro, si no, ¿cómo voy a hablar con ella, chiquilla?
No, pero ¿y nunca aprendió tu madre inglés?
No, porque le daba vergüenza
¿Vergüenza de qué? ¿Del acento?
de que si no íbamos a reír de ella. Le daba vergüenza y como no hace falta, pues no pasaba nada. Y yo me acuerdo que llamaban inglés a mi casa y mi madre, la pobre, se ponía hello y se ponía no, I'm sorry, Elio no here, Elio at work. Y después me decía, venía, yo venía, no, pero que también te digo que mismamente mi madre se tiró 3 meses con mi padre en Inglaterra cuando él estuvo malo. Y mi madre estaba sola en Londres y
Se apañó muy bien.
digo, al inglés de Fulham lo mandó a tomar por saco la mar de bien en inglés. Porque
Ya, es interesante. Anoche me encantó la charla que dieron ustedes y me alegro que fueron bastante gente y que hubo mucho interaction, que es la primera vez que escucho una charla cuando ellas estaban haciendo la presentation, pero they were asking the crowds. There was one lady who didn't stop
Oh,
talking.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
And she,
yeah.
bye guys. And she was valid.
no, si hubiera ido yo,
She was
hubiera sido
valid in
yo.
what she was saying.
La que no se
Yes,
callaba.
Because it was relevant, pero the fact is that everybody joined in. Everybody.
Everybody.
Pero
It was
you know,
so
but
nice
you know
about
probably
that.
why.
Yeah, because we're so passionate about this
because we
subject.
like to be celebrated and we
Yes,
are
of
so
course.
often
Yes.
not
Yeah,
celebrated.
exactly. Because very little is known of Gibraltar out of Gibraltar. We don't know anything about it.
Mira, cuando
This
Miss
is where we're
Gibraltar
so
ganó Miss
surprised.
World, los hits en Google, buscando todo el mundo, ¿dónde
Where's
es?
that? Where's that? Oh, many people say that we. Also, you're going to Gibraltar. Do you like the island? Excuse me, it's not an
Ah,
island.
bueno. Do you have electricity?
Oh, come on.
¿Cómo? ¿Cómo? Do you live in caves? Claro, esa es.
Oh my goodness.
Yo estaba estudiando en Inglaterra y a mí me dijeron, oh, Gibraltar, oh yeah, the apes, siempre the apes.
Sí.
The apes. Y, so would you live in caves? Y yo, I'm sorry. But you have electricity? Y yo, sorry. Plan. Ahora con 42 años, a ver si le iba a contestar yo igual como le contesté ese día. Pero
But also I think regarding yesterday, I think that it was also because, I mean, we touched a topic, the topic was language and identity, and I think that everybody has an opinion and personal experiences to share, and this was somehow what people wanted to
But
share.
you have
yes.
to realize as well that our identity is very complicated.
Yes.
Por ejemplo, one issue that I always had is when I used to watch el Euro o el World Cup y yo decía, yo quiero sentirme como esa gente que están en los stands, que están llorando amargamente porque han perdido el partido. Sí, you support England, pero en verdad Cuando England lo echan del World Cup, pues you start to support el que viene después. Y ya cuando Gibraltar entró en el UEFA, era como, espérate, por fin, this is really exciting, porque I wanted to feel like them. We
Yeah.
don't have that.
No.
Te digo, we have the thing that we are supported by UK. We have the thing that we like a lot of things about Spain. Pero después we are not allowed to be just us.
Exactly.
Siempre estamos connected con alguien.
And don't you think that the language that represents that us is Llanito? Don't you think that that is the language that represents what Gibraltar is and who Gibraltarians are? Because I think that if we reduce all languages to just one, English apparently, I think that's going also to reduce your identity to some
Claro que
extent.
sí.
I
No,
think
so
so
it's,
too.
it's like your identity is unique.
Yes.
And it
English
is.
nor Spanish is unique. Your
It is.
language is unique as well.
It is. So I think that the
The way we behave
language
is unique.
universal.
Yeah, it is.
Identity
It is
Okay.
because es
Yeah.
como en un domingo tú algunas veces haces paella y otros domingos haces un English roast.
Claro, es que es así.
Y no perdonamos el té, pero al mismo tiempo yo me quiero tomar un tinto de verano.
But, and when we arrived here, that's one of the things that we were surprised at. That we arrived here and we thought that this was the UK. And what we found is that people hugged us and they were so welcoming and
Sí.
they wanted to take us to their
Aquí
homes and they
Stiff Upper
wanted to
Lip.
pay for dinner. And
You
they
know
said,
when we
"These are
have
not
the
British
stiff
at
upper
all."
lip? When it's professional.
Yeah.
No estamos en la escuela, ¿no? El trabajo, tú vas a un banco, ¿no? Y después sale por la puerta y es como, venga, vámonos.
But even today in Gibraltar College, if I'm allowed to say that, they were super welcoming and the students were relaxed and open and they would speak English to the teacher and so on, and then among themselves talking about the weekend, planning the weekend ahead, they would speak Llanito. So it's so strong. And yesterday we were very surprised, by how much people participated. It had never ever happened to us.
Well, I know you said
Ever.
it. You mentioned it.
No,
You were saying,
because
I wish all our students were like that.
my students, of
But
course, but
it was-
even
we were,
talks.
we were all talking amongst ourselves at this
Yes.
talk.
Yes.
It was just
And
incredible.
it's normally a talk
So
and
many
then
interesting
questions and
people
answers.
went as well. Humbert Hernandez
Oh, yeah, and Charles Durante, Jordana Durante,
Jordana.
yourself.
You know what? I've
Yeah.
forgotten to show you the book. So Davenia is very good friends with Giordano.
Okay.
They go back a long way.
Long time.
And we went to the presentation of his second book, and I wanted them to see the book, and I've forgotten to bring it.
Ay, porque no me lo
the
dijiste.
poem, I've got them at home.
But
I
I've-
bought them both.
but I've got-
I
I've
forgot
got
to
a
bring
copy.
them.
I mean, Charles
Did
gave
he
me
give
Charlie.
you a copy of both the
Bueno,
books?
y el-
the ones
y el-
with the-
One.
the
It's
new
white.
Ese es el segundo.
The second one, that one,
Sí.
yes. So
Y
I've got
también
it.
sabéis de Andrew,
I don't know,
Jonathan.
they
El
need-
Llanito,
Yes.
el
You know
poeta.
what, Jonathan Dilma.
We know the name
Vive
and we are
Madrid.
editing this book and he's participated in the book.
Ah,
Yes,
good,
yes,
okay.
he wrote me an email in fact
Okay,
like
he's
a couple
brilliant
of
as
hours
well.
ago.
Yes.
We
We're
read one of
getting
his
to know a lot
poems
of
on our
people.
podcast.
We're getting to know a lot
Ese
of
poema
people.
que hizo de lo de la frontera, el closure y eso, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. Es que es algo que it's touched everyone.
Yeah.
Y fue muy duro. Y es muy importante, y entonces yo, como lo conozco una pila de años también, pues se lo dije, ¿no? Digo, ¿por qué no hace algo de eso? And he did. Y después cuando fuimos al eso lo leyó, ¿no? And it's so powerful, like the way he does it as well. Tiene un delivery que es fantástico.
Yeah,
Es
yeah.
fantástico.
Lo vamos a tener en el podcast cuando venga.
Sí, no viene para
Nice.
esta.
No sé cuándo, bueno, ya
No
pasó.
viene,
Ya
no viene.
Easter vino y se
Es verdad,
fue.
Easter, sí está pasando. Se nota
Pero
que no soy
we've got
religiosa.
we've got another 4 or 5 episodes, and I'm sure we'll have a few more. So I think we can.
He's good fun.
He's fun.
He's good fun. Es muy laid back and he's very
He was
fun.
telling me that he's about to finish his PhD as well as he's like in the middle of the promotion of his book. So
Sí.
marking exams, marking papers, all that. So very busy. Yes.
¿Tú sabes quién fue una persona muy interesante? El abuelo de él, bueno, aún vive, pero fue una persona muy prolific en Gibraltar por el tema de los unions and fighting for the rights of workers. Yeah, José Neto. You should look him up. José Neto is very interesting. Yo una vez me senté con él porque ellos son la familia de ellos es de cerca de Ronda. Y este hombre, yo me senté con él y yo creo que me podía sentar con ese hombre forever and ever para hablar con él. Qué persona más interesante.
Libro abierto.
Oh, very educated, very interesting man. Se llama de... Oh, Naviño, sí, fatal yo.
He was part of the union.
He was part of the union. Al otro día salió la foto en Gibraltar Old Photos, pusieron, y él era un picket que estaban haciendo un demonstration y él estaba delante del todo leading everyone, and they were fighting for the workers' rights.
Okay.
And he's very interesting.
Okay.
La verdad.
Can I
Atajate.
ask something? Can I ask you a question? Because this is not an interview, right? This is a talk. Do you think that this is someone yesterday said that this topic, you know, Llanito, defending Llanito or not, and blah, blah, there is a little bit taboo still. Do you think so?
I think it's to do with class. I mean,
Yes. Very much.
So I think a long time ago, especially when I was little, I went to the Loreto Convent. So I went to a private school. Mi marido dice que es como soy del Pish. Como soy del Pish.
Now we know what it means.
Pero
We
es
know what
que
it means.
es del Pish.
Now we know.
Ella dice que no, pero es del Pish.
I don't consider myself del Pish. Pero bueno, anyway, I went to the Loreto Convent, and I remember when we started school, I was 4, so 1969, 71, 1973, 74. I was told to speak in English.
Yes.
The Spanish was not allowed in school.
Yes.
But it wasn't just Loreto Convent. It was other schools as well, where we were told, speak in English because it'll be better for you. Then schooling and everything is done in English. So, and then I remember when I went to Westside, for me era como un game changer, porque yo estaba acostumbrada a hablar en inglés en mi casa, aunque mi padre was a linguist, mi padre hablaba francés, pero in Westside ya, which was a government school, so from
It was the girls,
Loreto I went to the government school,
¿no?
ya era una mezcla de gente. Yo escuchaba cosas y era lo que me dijo mi marido anoche. Tú no estabas enterada de la mitad de lo que es el queo, el talego, todas estas palabras. Yo no tenía ni idea. Y él se mete conmigo siempre porque me dice, es que tú no tienes ni idea. Claro, yo tuve un bit of a bubble at the beginning of my life.
That's right.
Pero and I think that's what it is. Then I got a job at GBC. You met Jonathan Sacramento.
Yes.
And I remember when I started at GBC, 2007, and I was told, when your show, I don't want any Spanish, I was told. You have to present in English. If there are words which are in Spanish, then you pronounce them in Spanish, like los nombres de calle o cosas así. But you cannot present in Spanish. Now, thank goodness, that has changed. And it's a complete difference because you even watch people interviewing other people.
Yes.
And if the other people are speaking in Llanito,
Es mucho más
no te
natural.
dices, mira, para, edit, stop.
Pero aparte de que es mucho más natural porque está, por ejemplo, nosotros tenemos ese, sorry to interrupt, ese history de las personas que a lo mejor no tuvieron tanto schooling y después lo cogían en GBC y decían, well, yes, my mother,
Sí, ahora sí.
my mother was, she didn't like it because, y entonces esa persona era un badullo.
O un capullo.
O un capullo.
Eso es lo que le dicen, son un capullo todo.
Yeah.
Hoy en día you shouldn't be embarrassed to speak Llanito.
Things
Yo
have
no lo veo
changed.
como, yo soy de menos categoría porque hablo Llanito.
But it's a global change. I mean, I think we mentioned yesterday the Prime Minister of Scotland. He speaks with a very strong Glaswegian accent.
That's right.
And he's a very educated man, and he speaks in Parliament, and also, so he should be standard. In the past, he would speak standard English.
Pero eso
Now he
pasa
speaks-
mucho porque
because
son
times are changing.
personas que they have the ability when they are in a certain position to switch off their accents.
Yes.
Y yo pienso en mi cabeza, how sad.
Yes. What for?
How sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have to
We
do
mentioned that yesterday.
So
¿Por qué?
things are changing in that
¿Por qué
respect.
tiene que
also
cambiar?
things are
Y
changing
todo
now.
es, pero
Yeah.
eso,
I definitely
pero eso es el superior, eso como el tema de que los andaluces,
Claro.
los andaluces son todos unos burros. No.
No.
For Galician people,
Galician
people, yes, we are
yeah.
considered to be paletos.
Ah, sí.
Oh yeah, rural.
Yeah.
No me
Alright.
digas.
Yes, bruto,
they love
rural,
it.
paletos.
Nunca lo había pensado.
Gallego, paleto. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Laura,
we
de
also
verdad.
mentioned yesterday these people that go to Madrid for 2 days and they come back
we
and
know
they,
some of those.
and they don't lose
There's
the
quite a
accent
lot
for
of
2
those
years.
here. Or there's something that's quite funny que yo le digo Gibraltar Regiment Cockney, porque mucho Gibraltar Regiment Cockney, because they go to England for 6 months to do training, And they come back talking like this because they've been
Very
living in
good.
London for like 10 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me encanta, me
You know?
encanta. Yo tengo una amiga.
It's exactly
Yo tengo
Yeah, it's
una
the same.
amiga y mi peluquero también. Mi peluquero te habla en inglés. Heavy Cockney.
Yeah.
Pero después te habla así.
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 ¿Sabes
Y
lo que-
me encanta.
But you
I
know
love
why
it.
that is? Porque in the 60s, a lot of people in La Línea
Emigrated.
went to live in London.
That's true.
Because there was nothing going on. The border world was probably just about to shut. Things were bad. There was no jobs, and they were used to the Gibraltar English, British, because
Yes.
they were next door. Aunque se fueron una pila de gente de La Línea a vivir a Londres.
Sí.
¿Qué pasa? Que abre la frontera, todo empieza a subir, el nivel de vida en el campo de Gibraltar empieza a subir y ya echan de menos el sol y el
Claro,
mar y el buen
claro.
tiempo y se vienen todos para acá.
Y todo, all right, mate.
All right, mate.
Oh,
Y
que me
después hablan
encanta, me
español así,
encanta.
porque son de la niña, son así. Un montón así.
Me encanta a mí el switch ese.
Fascinating.
It is.
Fascinating.
It's fascinating. But I'm fascinated that you're fascinated.
Oh, we have to be. We
You're
have
so
to be on this.
passionate about it.
Oh,
and
we are
that's what-
passionate. We are passionate for two reasons. As linguists, this is
Yes, of
a
course,
mixture.
of course, I understand
that is
that.
so interesting to. And,
Yes.
and we are really surprised that no one has done that so far. I mean, just to actually set the rules of Janito and how it works and explain the pragmatics and semantics and so on. And on the other hand, because we come from bilingual communities, so we know what it is to have the general
exactly.
language,
Esa es una
Spanish,
cosa.
and our proper language, Galician.
That's
So
what I
we
feel
share
as
that
well,
feeling.
de que cuando tú tienes communities que son bilingual, hay como una affinity, ¿no?
Claro.
Y
We
entonces,
know how it feels.
entonces tú dices, you do understand about the prejudice and all that. Es muy diferente a lo mejor coger a alguien madrileño y todo lo que ha hablado toda su vida ha sido en castellano puro y
Yep.
es muy
It's
diferente.
different.
Es muy diferente.
One anecdote that we were going to comment on yesterday, and then we didn't because we didn't have the time because everyone was speaking but us.
Porque saltaron por la vía tarifa, que sí.
Que
Que
estaban
sí.
todos hablando.
Sí.
Okay.
Bye.
Is that when I got here and I met Charles Durante, Giordano's father,
He's lovely.
for the first time, and he knew. Oh, so you're from Galicia? And he started to recite Rosalía de Castro in Gallego. She's a
que-
19th century
Sí, pero
poet
es que
who
Charlie es
did
una
everything
persona
for Galician. She was
es una
the-
persona única, no hay
Yeah.
nadie como Charles Durante.
She's part of the Resurgimiento, the Renaissance of Gallego. And I started to cry. Someone in Gibraltar reciting
claro que
Rosalía de
sí.
Castro. If he had started to recite, I don't know, Lope de Vega, I wouldn't cry.
Sí, you would have been surprised.
I would,
You
I would
know,
be,
you would have
okay,
been.
oh my God, he's so
mira.
clever. Look at that.
Sí, pero ahí
I
mira.
didn't think about clever. I thought about,
que,
what
es
a
que
present he's
Mr.
given me.
Durante, yo lo conozco porque
He
el
was our
padre de
English-
Charlie, pero
he was my English
era
teacher at
maestro.
school.
Y entonces es Mr. Durante, y Mr. Durante es una persona súper inteligente, super cultured. Yo estaba en su casa y nada más hay libros.
Sí.
Libro y libro y libro
wife
y libro.
told me, yes.
Y Giordano es exactamente igual.
Yeah.
Libro y libro amontonado que tiene que leer todavía porque y va a Inglaterra y se compra más libros. Son una persona muy interesante. And it is nice.
Yes, and they did that, and he touched my heart.
I
yes.
also want to mention Mark Sanchez because thanks to Mark, we're all here.
Exactly.
Mark and
Is that
Mark-
why? Is
Oh,
that how you
yes,
guys came
yes.
around to this thing,
Yes,
vale?
Mark Sanchez was the one who, but I got involved because of my cousin Tommy, who Mark put them in touch with Tommy. Yeah, but Tommy's in the middle of finishing his PhD and couldn't do this essay, which I'm supposed to.
Pasa que todo el mundo está haciendo PhDs.
Well, a lot of people are doing PhDs.
pasa?
I wouldn't be able to do
Uy,
that.
yo no
I don't have the
puedo.
Yes, you
patience.
would. Oh, yes, you would.
Ay, yo no tengo
Yes, you
Yeah, I'm not really very clever. I'm quite streetwise, but I must say
Whatever.
you need to be quiet.
No, but let me talk about Mark. Well,
Talk about Mark.
We met Mark a few years ago, and he went to the Balearic Islands to give a talk. Maybe you-
2016, 15?
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe you want to talk about that?
Go ahead.
Well, he went to the Balearic Islands. I was there too, and he gave a talk about his literature, and the audience was super crowded, full of university students, and they wouldn't let him go. When he finished, they all went to him. They were full of questions, and he started answering the questions one by one, and it was just like oh my God, so much interest. And he had talked about the memoirs, the book of the memoirs. So talking about the closing of the gate, the frontier and all that. And everyone was fascinated.
And in fact, I remember that. I think that it is in the fetishes. There's like at the very end, one of his
the books, the fetishes.
But I think that's towards the end there is a sort of an interview, just like the question and his answers, and he acknowledges that okay, you go to deliver conferences in many places, blah blah. So a special one, and he mentions the one that he gave us, the Balearic Islands. Basically, it was full of students and all asking questions, like around 100 or so, and asking questions about, I mean, the interest that the probably most of them didn't know the reality, what's happening. It's like 20, 22 years old and probably didn't know much of the history of Gibraltar.
You don't even have to be that age.
He somehow showed him, I mean, images are very powerful sometimes, and they were like shocked and well, very interested basically because they ask questions, and normally they do not ask that many questions.
No. And now recently I said, Mark, can you help me, because I really need more data from Gibraltar and I don't know what to do. And he all of a sudden opened all the doors for us, and one was crucial, which was John Cortes. And so we had an interview with John, and we said, John, we need access to very specific text types, can you help us? So the network started to open and open and open, but it was essentially Mark doing it.
Wow.
And also for this talk was very difficult for us, because we normally give linguistic talks that we talk about the direct object of the blah 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 syntax.
More technical,
that's easy, very technical. But this was for the general public and about very delicate issues, and he went through it, he gave us advice, and he said it's going to be fine, and why don't you do this, and now we are together in a project called the Linguistic Biographies book, and he's been crucial, and his support is always there.
He's always very supportive of us.
Very
He does say that he has watched it, and thank you for mentioning him when we do mention him, and that's
for example, the one that I've been exposed to is the Marlborough Man.
I just
y lo está leyendo y es que lo está viendo en tu cabeza.
And the Marlborough Man, he gave an online talk with my students again, in the Balearic Islands, and I think that it was about to be released before, and he read some fragments of the Marlborough Man, and they were also there were a few students
very accurate.
Students were like
I mean, it's exactly what happened.
At some point he describes por ejemplo, el Pantera. Yo puedo pensar 5 personas que podían ser Pantera.
Claro.
¿A que sí?
Nosotros lo vivíamos.
Es que te entra una risa porque tú dices fácil que este, porque está hablando de esta persona.
And the closest things
because we saw it.
For my students was probably the film El Niño, which was the closest things to Marlborough Man. I mean, they didn't live that reality.
Y el niño es mucho más moderno. Porque es lo que se vivió aquí.
Someone, I don't know if you realized, who had one of those golden chains with the pendant that he shows in that he shows in the cover of Marlborough Man. Such a good novel.
So let's talk about very quickly. I want to know about this book, the 21 Linguistic Biographies.
Yeah, it's going to be 22.
22. So what is it? The 22
Linguistic Biographies.
What is it all about?
It's about people telling us what was their mother tongue, when they learned one language or the other, what does the language mean to them, if they have come across some kind of anecdotes or criticism or discrimination when living abroad or going abroad or something, if someone has commented on their accents, what they feel about maybe losing one of their languages as Gibraltarians, whatever they want. So some of them are very poetic, some of they look like a novel, some are very informal, but they say what they feel about all their languages and what it means to them.
Too. I mean, they've asked me to write an essay, 2,000 words.
It's going to be amazing.
I want to participate. I just need the time to sit and think and do it. Because I lived in England like Dav did. We both went to study at 18. And you know, there's the situation in Gibraltar. You get a place at a university, then the government will. I mean, we're very, very lucky. We both went. She did her degree and came back. I spent 10 years living in Oxford. I studied at Oxford Brookes University. But you come across lots of situations because you're from Gibraltar. And, oh, yes, Yes, the apes.
The apes.
And you're Spanish then, and then
You know what they used to think that I
we're
was?
British, and you know.
They used to think I was Greek. ¿Qué te pasaba
I
también?
mean, no,
Welsh, many people.
Welsh, the
from
accent
Wales,
is-
yeah.
Yes, but I understand that.
Because of the.
And also South
musicality.
African.
Welsh?
Yes, Welsh and
Many
South
people,
African.
many people.
Para mí era Greek porque because of the speed. The speed and the change. Porque tú escuchas a los griegos hablando y when ellos usan mucho el swear word malaca.
Malaca.
Y hacen igual que nosotros, están escuchando malaca y nosotros hablamos coño, así, ¿no?
Many Spanish
Lo que pasa es que we
speakers,
look like them as well.
but also many
Son muy
Spanish
moreno.
speakers speaking English are also taken as Greek, and I think that it has to do
I think it's the
because
speed.
the vowel system, it's very similar. more
Actually,
reduced than
una
the
cosa que
English
quería
system, the
decir, que me
British
estaba
system,
riendo
yeah.
la otra noche yo sola. El programa, ¿cómo era? ¿Viajeros callejeros?
Callejeros.
Callejeros viajeros. Una vez hicieron Spanish people in London. ¿Vale? Es que no se me olvida, porque yo creo que yo le estaba chillando el television, ¿vale? Chillándole. Porque le dice, ¿y qué tal? ¿Cómo es vivir aquí? Porque vivían en Camden, me parece que era. Y le dice, sí, aquí pues pagamos unos 600 pounds de alquiler. And I flipped. ¿Quién dice 600 pounds?
Pues lo dicen mucho
It
hablan así.
sounds
20
so
pounds. It does to
bad.
us. It's
Why?
to us, but I knew loads of people living in.
O 20 libras o 20 pounds.
I knew loads of people, Spanish people living in England, who used to call it like say that.
20 pounds.
Say 20 pounds.
Loads of people.
20 pounds. No, you cannot say 20
Como
pounds.
2 pounds or 5 pounds.
Oh, it's terrible.
The libra? Sí, libra. I don't know what
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
No.
¿Lo ves?
It doesn't
No.
sound
For
like
us,
weird.
it's awful.
That was yeah, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Y yo, pues Dios.
And that's called switching.
Y cada vez que lo decía,
The thing is, you talk about code switching. We don't realize we're doing it.
No.
Like, I think in Spanish. I think in Spanish.
you?
Yes, I do think in Spanish.
Oye,
I'm
Nico.
going along, mira este en mi cabeza, mira este cómo está vestido hoy, hay que ver, mira lo que tiene puesto. Yo no lo look at it, I wouldn't say it in it, I don't know, it comes into my head in Spanish.
That's
Sí,
why
pero-
you're
sí, pero
proficient
But you
in
look at
both.
someone in the street and you think to yourself, oh look, he's really nice, oh I love that.
no, pero seguro que tú lo ves y piensas, good lord. En inglés.
También.
¿A que sí? Y
También.
después piensas, good lord, que tiene puesto.
También.
Pero no, tú no dices, Dios mío, rubbish.
No.
En la vida dices,
Bueno,
tú,
sí, puedo ver.
sí, no. Tú dices, Jesus.
No, I say a lot, por favor.
Sí, tú dices
Like,
mucho,
"Mom,
por favor".
Y tú dices, no puedo.
No puedo, no
puedo.
puedo. No
Por
puedo.
todos lados lo dice.
Y también digo, what? Porque como,
O sea-
no, y después digo, no puedo. Sí, no puedo.
You're going to borrow that. No pueden.
No puedo.
no puedo.
No puedo.
Es que no.
It supersedes me, no
Yeah.
puedo. Es como Cristo.
That's it. No
Bueno,
puedo.
one thing, what's next for you two? So you're leaving on Saturday.
Yes.
What are you going to do with all the research? You've been here the whole week. What did you think of Jib?
Oh, my
is it the
goodness.
longest time that you've been here?
Maybe.
Probably, yes.
Yeah?
For sure. The week when we have met most people and we have more
The
data.
most productive ones, definitely, yeah.
That's
you've got good
what I was going to
Oh, very
say.
good research. What we have done is gather data. So now comes the boring part, which is to
Putting it all
transcribe it,
together.
codify it, and so on. That's really
Okay.
slow.
Que yo lo que iba a decir era de
Yeah.
que nosotros somos bastante intense. ¿No? Somos bastante intense
Yes,
y queremos hablar mucho con que I imagine that this week has been como information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably at the end of the day you must have gone to wherever you're staying and gone, uff, no vea, ¿no? Porque es que somos muy intense. Pero lo que pasa es que when it comes to the thing of identity and all that, it's such a big deal because of what I said, because we have not been allowed to express it
What we were saying.
como nos
before,
gusta
yeah.
o como quisiéramos. Y lo mismo de siempre, no podéis estar aquí, no podéis participar en esto, no podéis ser esto, siempre lo mismo. Van a hacer un deporte,
Han
no,
pasado
Libertad
una
no puede
pila de
sacar la
cosas.
bandera,
Han
con
ido-
que when somebody gives us
Yeah,
a stage, es como ¡woo!
Han ido tanto equipo, tantos sitios que hasta el last minute han dicho, soy de Gibraltar, pues no podéis participar.
No pueden.
Se han ido equipos a países a
Hace
competir
poco,
en
hace
cosas.
poco.
En cricket.
No, y en
Crickets.
España aquí, hace poco. No podían sacar la bandera de Gibraltar.
Sí.
Lo
Entonces, nos pasa todo el
de
tiempo.
cuando van a remar
Yo, cuando
en Sevilla.
van a remar, mis hijos reman para uno de los clubes de aquí de remo, en los clubes de remo. Y cada 2 por 3 van a Sevilla, lo invitan porque tenemos muy buena relación. Pero claro, compiten con equipos de la Junta de Andalucía, pero si ganan,
no
le dan
clasifican
trofeo y no se clasifican. O sea, saben que el Calpe Rowing Club ha venido segundo, pero no ganan nada. O sea, ni dicen que el Calpe Rowing Club ha venido segundo. Para los niños muy buena.
¿Tú te acuerdas?
It's very good experience because they're rowing on a river. Here they row in the sea. It's very different.
Muy diferente.
So they love going because it's a great experience, and they're rowing with other teams and with other training levels. Claro.
De Liam Bunn.
So, claro.
Liam Bunn is a runner. Y he participated somewhere y le dijeron, tú no puedes ser de jeep, decirlo, bla, bla, bla. Hizo la carrera y cuando cruzó la meta se quitó el top y sacó una bandera de Gibraltar. No, vea la que se lió.
Sí.
Son cosas así. Se sufre mucho. Es política. Digo, cuando ganó Miss Gibraltar, Miss World, el siguiente día, cola a la frontera. Cuando el Jeep entró en el UEFA, cola a la frontera. Entonces ya el cachondeo aquí, cada vez que pasa algo así en el Jeep, lo primero que dicen en Facebook es, mañana cola a la frontera.
Pues sí.
Estamos acostumbrados.
Qué terrible.
Estamos acostumbrados.
It's terrible.
And the thing is that you said, the 22-year-olds who didn't understand, it doesn't matter. It is what they have been told. Y mucho de ello es, they come here and they're like, pero esto no es así. No, that's what you've been told.
Exactly.
Y es lo que se dice en las noticias. Por ejemplo, mi familia misma me ha dicho, porque ustedes que pagáis 1% de tax, y yo la gana mía de pagar 1% de tax.
Yes.
Why do you believe this rubbish?
All lies. Yeah.
¿Entiendes? Entonces, you come along and you say, venga guys, vamos a hablar del tema, say whatever you want. Bueno, nos ponemos todo.
Y más que yo Spanish, this is the thing.
Esa es la cosa. Que yo Spanish.
You're both Spanish, not
Yes, we were.
Spanish.
If you were English,
for us,
¿verdad?
that is like, what?
If they were British, estaríamos black and bueno.
We're linguists.
We're linguists and we're Galician. I'm Galician. I'm Spanish, but I'm Galician.
I'm Galician and I live in the Balearic Islands, which is another bilingual community.
Claro.
Yes.
Claro que sí, es que es diferente. Once you get exposed, eso también es exposure también, ¿no?
Claro.
You get exposed to other things y nosotros como somos tan mezclados y hay de todo y pues, estamos más abiertos.
You know that we have a problem now. We were talking about that at lunch. That we came here initially to complete this project that we have been. We are funded. Yes, we are funded by this, so we need to finish it, the Gibraltar English component. But now I don't feel like recording Gibraltar English.
You can't call it Gibraltar English.
It's not.
Last night you had on the screen Gibraltar English and Spanish Janito, something like
Janito Spanish.
Janito Spanish.
I'll explain
Neither
that.
of those two phrases
exist
here.
Yeah.
I'll
and I
explain
think
that to you.
a lot of people in the audience saw that.
Did not like
they did
it.
Mention it.
Seguramente.
Gibraltar English.
It's okay.
It's not exactly.
So,
It was talks about last night.
Let me tell you the problem first. The problem first now is that what we want to record now is Janito because it's so much more interesting.
Oh yeah. ¿Sabes qué
So
pasa?
much
Yo
more
sé qué
interesting,
pasa, que
but we have to
you've
finish
opened
it.
up Pandora's box.
Yes. But it's just recording and then starting.
But I think it's great.
Well,
I
it caused
think
a
it
lot
has
of
to be
Lo que pasa es que tú ya no tienes ganas, tú ya quieres empezar lo otro.
Janito, claro, yo quiero acabar ya lo de Gibraltar English y empezar con el Janito because it's more interesting because it might disappear. But I'll explain that now.
Sorry, explain it. Go ahead and explain it.
Okay, Gibraltar English, like you said
but
yesterday.
the question is, why do you think that the label Gibraltar English is
We're
wrong?
not English.
No.
None of us would say we're English.
I'm not English.
But,
You don't know the
but you know
language,
what? It's only
No,
it's
it's English.
It's English.
Yeah, but no. Well, probably this is a linguistic label, basically because we talk about British English, American English,
Yes.
Canadian English,
Yes.
Indian English,
Yes.
Jamaican English,
No,
Kenyan
we
English,
have,
Tanzanian
we
English.
have British English.
No.
Yes.
You have
Different.
Gibraltar English.
It's your variety.
No.
It cannot be.
No. Gibraltar English would come under the umbrella of Janito, the same as the, ¿cómo lo llamaban? Spanish Janito.
Janito Spanish.
Yes, no, but Janito's a different language.
Sí, pero it all
would you-
comes together.
Would you prefer like Janito English, the label Janito English?
No. Janito is Janito.
But wait.
But The thing is that
It's English.
but that here is
Gibraltar
no.
English. It's not American English.
No, por
Basically,
Dios, thank
no,
you. No, thank
Gibraltar
you.
English.
It's not UK.
Our kids speak American English.
No, but we want.
It's Gibraltar
Eh,
English.
no.
What we want to
One of
convey
mine.
is that Gibraltar
So,
English
maybe you're
literally means the English that is spoken in Gibraltar, in this
But it's
geographic
the
location.
same as the British English. We are taught.
No.
We are taught
Well-
their system.
No, it's not
But
the same.
The only
trust
thing
me.
that's different is the accent.
Yes.
Trust me.
It's different.
Yeah.
Pero que
That's
no,
the only
pero
thing
que en
that's
América
different
no
is
es
the
el
accent.
It's
accent nada más.
Indian English.
We don't
El
say
accent.
elevator.
Indian
I wouldn't call it
English.
We say
Indian English.
Well, in linguistics
Right.
it
They
is
speak
known as
English
Indian
with an
English.
Indian accent. They speak
Ah.
English with an American
This is
accent.
this is what
This is the difference.
Pero eso no es lo mismo.
It's a different
It's
thing.
English with a
Gibraltarian
accent.
accent.
Pero that's not.
But that's not Gibraltar
that's
English.
No. Nosotros usamos las mismas palabras que los ingleses.
But we are not saying that.
But you're talking about accents then.
But it's the language
Varieties,
itself.
yes.
The thing is that in
Are
Gibraltar
we talking
English,
about the use of the word, or are we talking about the way that it's said, the
trust
diction?
me, in Gibraltar English,
Diction and other things.
there are,
Porque
but there
son
are
dos cosas
no, but
completamente
there are
separadas.
the
Aquí
accents,
nadie nunca va a decir ni el ocean,
No,
ni
it's not the
elevator,
lexicon, it's
ni
not
cosas
the
así.
grammar.
Y eso son lo que hacen los
Accent and more.
americanos.
no, but you have your own accents.
Yes.
The pronunciation of the vowels
Yes.
is specific to
Intonation.
Gibraltar. In terms of vocabulary, there are some specificities as well. In terms of grammar,
Yes.
there are some, and sometimes it's not just a matter of saying you use this structure which is not found in this variety of the language, but there are some things which are grammatical things which are more frequently used
Here.
in
What, give me an
Gibraltar.
example.
I'll give you an example. Must and have to and so on.
This and the use of the active and the passive voice. Are you familiar with this structure?
Sí, pero
okay.
give me a specific example.
No, the passive voice is very frequently used, and you should speak of this because the varieties of study. The passive voice in British English is very, very frequently used. A structure which is inherent to British English, just to compare it with one, right? In Spanish, what is very frequently expressed by means of the passive voice in Spanish is by means of the active voice. If we compare British English and Gibraltar English, the same in the press, printed press, which is the genre that I study, passive voice is much more frequently used in British English than in Gibraltar English.
But give me an example of how we would say something differently when we feel we are saying the same thing.
No, it's a question of frequency. You use passives more frequently than the UK.
Another one, which
Less frequently than in the UK. It's a question of frequency. For example,
Vale.
I'll give you another example. The modal must. You must do that. You must do this. This is decreasing in frequency everywhere in the world, okay?
Yes.
Because it's very strong.
It's very
so
strong
people
and
are
very negative.
very negative. So
Yes.
people are replacing it with you need to, you have to, you
Right.
want to, okay?
Okay.
That's a tendency. We measure that in the UK. We measure that in Gibraltar. Which one sticks to must more? Gibraltar English. Once you have a corpus, a big collection of words, and you study the frequency of one and the other, you see, so Gibraltar is a little bit more conservative. They still use must more often than in the UK. And that makes it a different variety of it. It's the English. Of course it's English. Otherwise you would
But
call
I
it blah,
understand.
blah, blah.
And another one is the use of, in English you can say the house which I bought, the house that I bought, the person that I met, the person who I met. In Spanish you can only say that option, que. And in Gibraltar English, that option is much more frequent than the which or who option in comparison with British English. And they could easily be influenced from
I see why
Spanish.
they call it Gibraltar
it is not
English. I mean,
right or wrong. It's just a matter of frequency, and this can be conditioned by the influence from another language that is spoken here. But it's just a matter of frequency.
It's very
It
interesting.
is very interesting.
It's just that I think that the difference is that because you are used to giving more technical.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
this is just linguistics. This is
Sí,
variety that
pero
is spoken in
to
India.
a la persona de la calle, ponerlo así,
Sí.
y más con el background que tenemos y los
Claro.
sensitive que somos,
Claro.
that's why.
And no
And yesterday
issues
was
of
pointed out.
prestige behind. This is
Oh, no,
totally descriptive. It means the variety of English spoken in Gibraltar as opposed to the variety of English spoken in India. It's like Andalusian
Interesante.
Spanish. It's
Very
just
interesting.
Just the language and the place in which it is spoken.
Very interesting.
But one thing that we wanted to do is to give Gibraltar visibility, because we said, okay, so we're going to Fiji to record their variety of English, and Gibraltar, that is around the corner, is not represented in this international thingy.
Pero que es
Well,
así.
thank you.
Of course.
Pero
I
que
mean,
es así.
Mira, I want to
Sí.
ask you one thing as well. We have no Janito,
corpus?
what's the word?
No sé.
Well, not a dictionary, because we have a dictionary somewhere.
Yeah, that we have to update a
Which
little.
we have to update, whatever.
have
But
this
like a
dictionary, yeah.
how to write Janito.
Yeah,
I'm trying
there's
to get them
nowhere
to print it again.
written how to write Janito now.
Porque
Gail
yo
Gucci
creo
from
que hay
GFANS
demands.
has been doing this for 15 years, and we are all oblivious to it. Nobody.
What is más perdido yo?
The
Spelling.
written Janito.
Sí.
So Dale has a website. Dale
Sí.
Gucci from GFANS
Sí.
has a website
Sí.
where thank you
Libertad.
TENKIKIKU.
Libertad.
He uses a lot the K, which is fine. I don't know if I agree 100%.
I don't agree with libertad, porque yo no digo libertad.
Libertad. Pero
Ahora, a lo mejor mi madre no me hubiera
There's-
dejado de decir libertad, mi madre me hubiera metido doctor.
there's nowhere written down. Janito's not written anywhere.
No.
How to say it, how to speak it, how
Yep.
to conjugate the verbs, all that. That's what we should do.
Sí,
Yes,
pero
the
that's
next
the thing.
step.
This is
Somebody
probably the
needs
next
to do that.
Pero that's
Yeah.
the thing. Because it's not done, and because it's not a set thing or a standard thing. Por ejemplo, él ahora pone libertad y yo no estoy de acuerdo.
Claro. It's a very controversial issue, and you have to.
And it's
You need
very
to have that
interesting
discussion.
porque I used to be the court interpreter, ¿vale? Entonces yo traducía para las personas que hablaban en castellano y todo eso, y entonces un día nos trajeron un evidence, era un WhatsApp text, ¿vale? En Janito. But it was translated by an English person. Con que the context was completely wrong. Y es súper interesante eso.
Claro.
It's like
Porque the message was so different.
Yep.
It's like some of the examples you gave last night that you asked me to read, because your Janito's not as good as mine.
No, of course not.
But
But it sounds
some of
ridiculous
them didn't make
speaking
any
Janito.
sense to us.
Right.
because they were probably out of context
Yeah,
as
it
well.
just wasn't. It wasn't. We wouldn't say that is Janito, whereas
Right.
it probably looks Janito to you.
And
Yeah.
and the
Pero la cosa
coming
es que
back
there's
to
no
spelling,
sense
yeah.
también, ¿eh? There's no sense. No es que tú ahora me dices a mí, por ejemplo, antes dijeron, ¿por qué no se puede decir 600? Porque no.
Yeah.
Pero yo I cannot give you any evidence.
Any reason?
I cannot justify it. Pero yo te digo a ti que está fatal.
Yeah.
¿Vale? Está fatal. Pero no te puedo decir, pues mira, por eso. I cannot. It's just
Yeah.
what it is. ¿Verdad? Es super weird,
Yeah.
pero it is what it is.
Well, coming back
go
to
on, go
the
on,
yes, to the because that's very important. If we want to promote Janito, we need to start writing it down.
Yeah.
Okay? And some people have written a little bit, like Mark Sanchez in Marlboro Man or
Yeah.
Giordano Durante in his poems. Okay, and then there's another tendency, which is Dale Buttigieg's attempts and all his wonderful work. But when I read something that is very long, in that phonetic spelling, you know, the way it's pronounced, for me it's very difficult
Hard.
to read. Very, very
It probably,
hard.
it would
And I
probably
can
be hard for
imagine-
us as well, because
It's
we're
hard.
not used to it.
Hay veces que yo lo tengo que leer más de una vez.
Exactly. And if you want to
Pero
write
it's
down,
because what I said is because I don't agree that it should be written like that.
And if you are someone in the street and you want to write something down in Janito, you have to make it easy for that person
Yeah.
to write. If you're going to start saying no, that's no, you need to use a K and a W, and then it's not going to work.
Complicated.
It's
No.
not. You have to make it easy. You have
Sí.
to make it straightforward.
Sí.
So there's a debate that you need to have about that, but you need to make it easy. Otherwise, it won't work. I mean, it is very difficult the way it is now. So imagine if you make it more difficult to write
Yo,
down.
una cosa que yo siempre me he dado cuenta es I used to work in a place where we used to source a lot of things from Spain. Y ahí me di cuenta de how fast our brains work. A mí me llamaban de España y decían, hello, yes, can I speak to Davinia? Y yo, and I would go, sí, ¿qué pasa? And they would go, yes, I am calling from tal y tal, and I want this and I want that. Y yo, okay, sin problema, pero explícame qué te pasa. Y no se daban cuenta. It's a switch that we have.
Yeah.
Que they always say que the brains of bilinguals work completely different to the, and I realized, digo, no se da cuenta. And we have that thing where automatically we will go, venga.
Yeah, we'd switch. It happens to me.
Increíble.
I work at DHL, and when I get calls from Spanish people trying to speak English, I automatically speak in Spanish.
Pero ellos siguen.
Pero ellos sí.
Sí, como please. Y lo que pasa es
Y a veces no son
que
Spanish.
eso es lo que pasa, que a veces después tú dices, el pobre le está costando un trabajo increíble, le estoy tratando de ayudar y no se da cuenta.
No sé,
y sí, and it becomes really painful. Like, oh, please, but yeah.
Bueno, mira, quiero terminar con una cosa. ¿Qué esperanza tenéis? What hopes do you have for Jib, for this thing that you're studying, that you're trying to create?
We're going to die fighting
Muy
You're
bien,
gonna die for it.
como nosotros.
for it.
Like us.
Nosotros somos así.
Wherever it takes, and then
Nosotros somos así, ¿eh?
we'll do what
Esperanza.
it takes.
Lo último siempre.
Lo último, sí. So some people are pessimistic, and some people, I don't know who's right and who's wrong. We are going to fight for it. Is what we should do.
I could
So
only
let's go
thank
for
you.
it.
Who's pessimistic? Interesting.
I mean, as linguists, the death of a language is just
As linguists, we are very pessimistic.
Very painful.
It's
yeah.
gone as linguists, but we want to be dreamers and try.
¿Por qué, bro? Why would you say that?
Totally gone.
What is gone? What?
The
Janito.
Janito?
No,
Yeah.
¿qué va?
I hope not. I hope not. I hope not. But as linguists, it's gone.
Your kids don't talk Janito.
Yes.
Among themselves?
Really?
Eh?
Among
Really?
themselves?
Yes.
In the playground?
6 and 9.
I know, I don't mean your kids. Your kids, of course, because you speak Spanish at home. But most kids
In school?
in the playground.
See, they do.
I hope so.
See?
Have you been to any of the middle schools?
No.
The schools with the younger children?
No.
Not
Maybe
yet,
you
no.
need to do that next time.
But people tell us that they don't speak English among themselves. Maybe they do to the mom or the grandmother.
English, they speak Spanish among
only
themselves.
English among themselves. Only English.
Pero not,
Not Janito.
sí, pero just English.
Yeah, I think.
If
well,
it's
I don't
not
know.
true, then there's hope. But
And they
if
may
it is true, it's the
understand
end.
Janito basically because they get
not
this
speaking.
input, but then they are very reluctant.
Qué lástima que Evelyn no vino. My daughter was gonna come. I asked her if she wanted to come y no tenía ganas porque she wanted to finish painting a picture que estaba haciendo.
Bueno,
Pero Emily would have loved this conversation.
That's great.
but we hope lots of
have it in
people
the future.
watch it, and please, by all means, comment, get in touch with me or Dav. Or you can get in touch with Elena or
Absolutely,
Christina.
please do.
They're more than happy to talk to you if you have a strong opinion about
Yeah.
the subject that we've been talking about. And I'm sure you'd more than love to speak to them and,
We would
and
love-
hear from
absolutely
them
love-
if
yes,
anybody's
definitely.
watching and really wants to.
good.
The other
Yep.
thing I want to say is that if you're going away on holiday, Ibex Insurance have great insurance packages, especially now. It's coming up to the summer and you're going to be going away. They sponsor our show, so we always give them a little mention.
medical, medical.
And medical and
Medical
pets. So
y todo lo que
please,
vincula, yes,
Ibex
sí, sí.
Insurance, and thank you for sponsoring us. And I just wanted to mention one thing, because I said I would and I haven't.
7 veces ya. I just want to mention one
The
thing,
seventh thing
chiquilla.
que voy a mencionar, the Opinionated Magpies. Two girls doing.
The opinionated magpies.
I'm surprised you haven't heard. It's a
qué?
new, it's like a blog.
Pero ¿por qué
Or a
todo el mundo
blog,
se cree que yo
or a
sé
blog,
todo?
porque
Y de
tú
todo
lo
el
sabes
mundo,
todo y te
¿o no?
enteras de todo.
¿O no?
Y I think they're doing a great job. They have a bit of everything.
¿Quiénes?
Son, bueno, no voy a decir los nombres porque they are, no sé si estoy supuesta a decir los nombres.
No lo diga,
But
pero
I
yo quiero
promised them
saber
that
quién.
we're going to have them, we're going to feature them on our show.
Ah, venga.
Yeah. So yeah, the
interesting.
Opinionated Magpies, they have a blog on Facebook
¿Por qué
and Instagram.
magpies? ¿Qué son, Georgies?
No, son de aquí, Janitas. And with that, we leave you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
eh?
thank
Yo
you very
estoy
much.
flipando.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, and thank you
Thank
both.
you.
Yo estoy flipando.
Thank you very much
Ojalá.
for inviting us.
I hope we can do this a
It's a
million
real
times
pleasure.
over. It's
Yes,
fantastic.
yes.
Yo estoy, I love it. I love it.
Maravilloso, gracias.
Esto es lo que-